All right, let's take care of a few little, as they say, housekeeping matters. Pop this announcement that we're going live onto Instagram. Got that going. And let's see. Let me get my screen arranged just right. Okay, that looks good. Hope everybody's having a great Saturday morning or possibly Saturday afternoon where you're at. We've got 3 minutes before we jump in here and get started. Just double checking, making sure everything's good. One last thing. Let's see, this is the second day in a row of Hot Wheels racing. And let's see, connect. Right there it is. All right, we've got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Then we'll be getting started. Get this thing connected. Move that right there. Got 2 minutes. If you want to go to AtTheTrack.live, select the link. You can go ahead and choose a car. Get it already queued up. Pick the number, drop it in the chat, and we will have a race on the track. 20 feet. Just over 20 feet, which is a quarter mile. 1/64 scale. Hot Wheels, of course, are 1/64 scale cars. And we want to have as authentic a competition as possible. Let's see, it's 10:59. Just about to go completely live. We're live right now, but we're about to get started. So again, AtTheTrack.live. You can go there. Find the car that you will want to race against, whichever cars I happen to pull out of the crates this Saturday morning. So I think we're good. 11 o'clock. Let's go ahead and officially get started. Hey, welcome to At the Track Live. I am Coach James. I am the creator and lead instructor of... Let's get back here. We're not going to the track just yet. See, there's so much anticipation to get to these races. But first, I always have to talk all about aerodynamics, which is a science program where I use Hot Wheels cars to teach kindergarten through 6th grade students about aerodynamics, about lift, about drag, about downforce, about energy, about kinetic energy, potential energy, about Isaac Newton and his 3 laws of motion, about friction, about force, whole range of physics and science related topics. After I've taught them the science, then I bring in about 400 different Hot Wheels cars, and each of the students gets to pick a Hot Wheels car that they think would be fastest in a series of races. They then set up a 20-foot Hot Wheels drag racing track. And the reason why it's just over 20 feet is because the cars, Hot Wheels cars, are 1/64th scale, meaning they're 1/64th the size of a real car. And a quarter-mile drag race is pretty typical in NHRA professional ranks and even street racing. It's a quarter mile. And scaled down to 1/64th scale, a quarter mile ends up being just over 20 feet. So that's what our track is. And we have these races. Now, At the Track Live, get that out of here. At the Track Live is where I pull out the new Hot Wheels that are being introduced into the All About Aerodynamics fleet. So when I go to the schools and I take the Hot Wheels cars, I have to make sure that I have accounted for each car. So each car has to be numbered. Each car has to be entered into a spreadsheet so that I know that if 30 students take 30 different cars, at the end of the program, I can get those 30 cars back and put them in the correct slot so that I can find them when they're selected the next time. And there's also an online edition of All About Aerodynamics where the students use our website to look at the cars and select the cars, and there are numbers associated with each car, and they use those numbers to tell me which car they've chosen. Then I can pull those cars and we go through the same course, but it's online, so I have to conduct the races here, which is similar to what's going to happen. Because at the Track Live, I have crates and crates of Hot Wheels cars that I haven't opened. Because like most Hot Wheels collectors, every time I go to a store, I always make my way down the aisle, see if there's any new or cool or interesting Hot Wheels cars that I'm interested in or that I think the students might be interested in. Pick those up. And I've bought more cars than I have entered into the spreadsheet and entered into the system. And not that I'm slacking, because right now there are 509 different cars for the students to choose from. But I have hundreds more that need to be entered in. So At the Track Live is where I go into those crates, crack open some of the Hot Wheels cars that I've purchased in the past, and we'll take a look at those, we'll review those, and eventually I will take them to the track and we'll race them. But the part that's where you come in is that you can go to AtTheTrack.live and you will have three options on the page. You will have the Twitch and the YouTube links, which you don't need because you're already here. But then the third option is for you to pick a car, to choose a car. If you select that option, you will be taken to our website, and there will be a listing of all of the cars that we have currently in our All About Aerodynamics At the Track Live fleet. And you will be able to scroll through and take a look at all of the cars. If you see one you like, maybe you think this hover steam, this boat, is going to be faster than one of the cars that I have just cracked open, then you can click on it, you can select it, and you will see a close-up picture, but more importantly, there's a number associated with each car. You can take that number, drop that number into the chat, and then from there, I will go and pull out the car, and we will take it to the track and run it against one of the cars that I crack open, one of the newer cars that I crack open today. You might think this 115, the Chill Mill, maybe that's the car that you're thinking is faster than whatever car I've picked. And that's number 115. Interesting thing about this is I've made some modifications to the track and the launcher. So I'm not sure about this one. It depends on how tall it is. But I've been able to run some races with taller cars, and that's been a problem in the past because um, the essentially the launcher uses so much force that the cars tend to launch into the air instead of staying flat on the track. So I had to create this acrylic cover that essentially prevents the cars from flying up off the track, keeps them on the track. But in order to do that, I had to keep it pretty low because most Hot Wheels cars are pretty short. But then there are occasions where I come in and I have bigger Hot Wheels cars that are taller. And so, in order to keep those cars on, I had to create a taller version of the acrylic track. So, the problem with that is the acrylic cover. With the taller version of the cover, it gives the smaller cars, which is most cars, more room to fly up into the air before they hit the ceiling. With the larger vehicles, such as this Tropicool ice cream truck, the taller cover allows it to just go up a little bit, hit the top, and stay on the track and keep going. But you can see the difference here. So this car would fly up and have a greater chance of flying into the air and crashing. And trying to avoid crashes because, as you will talk about in a few minutes, our track rules state that if a car crashes twice consecutively, then it's out. It's just disqualified and we move on. Usually if a car crashes twice in a row in the exact same spot, in the exact same way, there's some reason why, but the cars are moving so quickly that the only way for me to figure out which cars or what's causing the crashing is to go back and record slow motion video and then assess from there. So I have, actually yesterday, we had a car that continued to crash. Now this was not the car that continued to crash. This was our champion. This was the Jaguar D-Type, and it had a couple of close races, but it was definitely the fastest car yesterday. But the car that we didn't get to see race very much was this Avis Quattro, and it came out of the gate and crashed into the very first barrier that's right outside of the launcher in the starting position. So I didn't get a chance to go back and analyze why it was crashing, but it crashed twice and got disqualified. That hasn't happened too often, especially with the acrylic cover, but it does happen from time to time. Take a zoom in on this car, take a look. Closer look, because I can't understand why this car shouldn't perform well. I mean, it's not usually the cars that crash a lot. There's something fairly obvious. Very narrow cars tend to crash because they bounce around the track a lot. Cars that are very light tend to bounce around. But this car doesn't seem particularly light, doesn't seem particularly narrow. So why it was crashing is a bit of a mystery to me at this point. But it crashed, and it crashed twice, and since we can't analyze why it's crashing in real time, car crashes 2 times, it gets disqualified, and we move on. Now, speaking of moving on, we were racing yesterday and added 6 cars to the mix, and take a look because I didn't get a chance to add those cars into the spreadsheet. I just got busy and didn't do it. But by the time we come up here the next time, all of these cars will be entered into the spreadsheet, which also means they will be listed on the website, and you will be able to select those cars if you choose. So, take a quick look at yesterday's cars. So we had the Avis Quattro, which was this one. That was the one that kept crashing and didn't really make the cut. We had this one, the Cunningham car, which it's another one I meant to look up because apparently that is an actual car manufacturer, and I don't know if they have any more than just this one car, but yes, we have the Cunningham car, and then I already showed the D-Type, which was our winner, and that went up against this Jaguar. It was Jaguar versus Jaguar in the final, and it was the Jaguar XJ220, and that one was pretty quick. We had a good final race between that and the D-Type. We had this gigantic Cadillac, this 59 Cadillac, which started off pretty well. If we'd had a short track, it would probably have won a couple of races. But we don't have a short track, we have a long track. And because we have a long track, it didn't have enough momentum. It did cross the finish line. So unlike those Lincoln Continentals from a few weeks ago, it did cross the finish line. But toward the end of the race, it just started to slow down. It was noticeably slowing down, and it allowed another car to pass it and win. And the car that passed it and won was this one, the Metro Rail. And the Metro Rail was a car that was held over from a previous episode because it had these headers coming out on the side that prevented it from going into the launcher. And so I had to cut those off, and they were right here, and they were, grab this, let's set this back up here. Okay, so they were coming out and they were sticking out outside of the body, and so they were preventing the car from sliding into the launcher. So what I had to do was just cut those off, and then the car fit in, and it's got an odd shape once I look at it because it's a little more narrow in the front and gets wider towards the back. But also, I'm not a big fan of cars where the wheels are not flush with the body, and they're kind of tucked underneath and a little more narrow and closer together. I think a wider stance helps on our track. But nevertheless, the Metro Rail, because it was racing that gigantic 59 Cadillac, it got off to weird wobbly starts, but once the Cadillac started to slow down, then it was pretty much all over, because the Metro Rail didn't lose that much speed. It wasn't really fast to begin with, but it didn't lose speed, and it was able to pass the Cadillac twice at the end of the race once the Cadillac started to slow down. So the Metro Rail is also entered into the spreadsheet and will be available to pick in the future. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the winner yesterday, the champion car, was the Jaguar D-Type, and that was a pretty quick car. So those were the winners yesterday, and today we are going to pull some more cars, and we can get right to it because I still have some leftover cars from a Hot Wheels swap meet that I went to a few weeks ago, and there was a guy who was selling 90s, early 2000s era Hot Wheels, and that's sort of a gap in my Hot Wheels collecting that isn't filled in. So I bought a bunch of those cars, and for the last few episodes, I've just been reaching into the bag, pulling out one of those cars, and seeing how it's which cars are going to be entered. Because typically, if I go into the crates that I have, the other cars that I've purchased, I'm just looking at the cars and trying to pull out cars that are somewhat similar to have different, to have specific matchups when we race. But in this case, I like all of these cars for one reason or another, and so I'm just reaching in, pulling them out, and I think we're getting near to the end of that stash, which is convenient and interesting because, as a matter of fact, right now, I think that same Hot Wheels swap meet is going on, but I'm going to miss it today. But I think next week on Sunday, it's happening in Pasadena. If you are in Southern California, the LA area, then you can check it out. If you send me a message on Instagram, then I can double check and provide the link and information if you are interested in the Hot Wheels swap meet. But for right now, I'm going to reach into the bag. I'm going to pull out a car. We're going to see what car is going to be added to the fleet. Let me get the bag over here. All right. What do we have here? We have... Oh, this is another one from the Pride Ride series. This is the Mercedes CLK LM. And I say another one because yesterday one of the cars that we used, I think that 59, I think the Cadillac was from this, whatever, this Pride Ride series. And so let me see if there's any information on the back, which there is sometimes. Planet Hot Wheels, Pride Rides vehicles are cool cars with awesome detailed paint jobs. And that's the description. There are collect all 10 2003 Planet Hot Wheels Pride Ride models. And even though it says there's 10, it only has 6 of them listed. But this is one of them. So the Mercedes CLK LM10. So let's crack this open and take a closer look. Is the year on here? So the year says 1999, which is probably when it was first issued and then reissued, repainted for this series. So let's crack this open. Okay, and staying true to what we've seen from the other these other late 90s, early 2000s Hot Wheels, this car is definitely, like, the paint job and the details are just noticeably more, there's just more detail than some of the current cars that I've picked up. And of course, I've got to take a picture because, as I mentioned, there's an online version of All About Aerodynamics where the students only have the pictures to go by when they make the decision on which car they want to race. And this is almost camouflaged against a blue background, but so I want to get good quality pictures, usually a 3/4 view, so that they can see the different angles of the car when they're making their decision. So get a picture of the car, and then next is I'll take a video. And as I have mentioned, the videos, the original intent of the videos, you can see on, if you go back on our Instagram account and take a look how we were using these videos. Let me lock in the focus. And essentially, you could go to the Instagram page, look at the video of the car. You get a 360 view like you're getting right now. And then you could suggest a car that you wanted to see race the car that we posted the video of. And then you send a message or leave it in the comments. I'll see that. And just typing this in, Mercedes CLK-LM. So then you could see that car, and you could do the same thing. You would go to our cars page, find a car that you wanted to see race, and then you'd make that suggestion. I'd conduct the races. I would record it, edit it, upload it to YouTube, and then you could see the races. But that was just a little more time consuming than this process, which is open the cars, look at the cars. You want to see a car race, go to our page, pick the car, and we can race it right now. No waiting. It happens almost immediately. And so I still take these videos because, as I mentioned before, it's better to need them and not, it's better to have them and not need them than to need them and not have them. So I just make it a point to take the video of each car, and this car looks pretty good. It looks like the type of car that will do well as long as it's racing a car of similar size and weight. The lines on it's got the huge wing in the back and the spoiler. This is as with a lot of these early 90s, late 2000s car. Okay, so this one is plastic base but metal body. So we'll see how that comes into play. The last two cars that have won have been metal on metal, so metal base and metal body. But this is a good looking car. Nice way to start off. I can see exactly why I selected this one from the beginning. Yeah, that's a good looking car. So that is our first car of the day. That is the Mercedes excuse me, CLK-LM. Mercedes CLK-LM. I like those red wheels as well. So time to dive back into the bag and select another car. I am just reaching in. And what do we have here? We have, wow, this looks like some kind of Batmobile type thing. This is called, okay, so it's from the Street Beast series, Dark Rider Series 2. I guess that's the name of the car, or I thought that might be the series, but I think the series is Street Beast. So, Dark Rider Series 2, fins and rocket lamps, exclamation point. I don't know why that's such a big deal, but okay. Let's see, is there any information on the back? No, but there is one point that says, collector's tip. There are over 13 versions of the highway hauler truck. The one with the NASA emblem has increased 5 times in its original value. And this is back in 1995. So if you have that one, good for you. It's apparently probably pretty valuable. Let's see if there's a year on this one. This one is metal on metal, and it is all blacked out, and I think it says 1990, but I'm going to have to crack it open, take a closer look. So, the Dark Rider series, this really does look very Batmobile inspired. Maybe this is something they maybe this is a car that before they had the license to make Batmobiles, maybe this was their attempt to do that. So it really doesn't. It's time to pull out the magnifying glass and take a closer look, because there's no, let's see, Mattel Inc. It has 1990, and then there's no, usually Malaysia company where it was produced, and then there is usually a can't see what this says. Oh no, it's just Hot Wheels. Yeah, so there's no identifying information, so I will have to take it from the car and just presume that the name of the car is Dark Rider Series 2. I don't recall a Dark Rider Series 1, but let me get it on the turntable here, and you can take a closer look for yourself. This is almost definitely, like, that's the vibe, like, immediately is Batmobile, although nothing. If the old 60s TV era Batmobile, now granted this has some slightly different lines, but if there weren't Batmobiles that Hot Wheels was making and I was a kid, then this would have stood in. And it reminds me of the Dixie Challenger, which is one of the cars that Hot Wheels at the time didn't have the license to make, which would have been the General Lee car from the show The Dukes of Hazzard. And it's clearly controversial because of the Confederate flag, but when it came out in the 80s, this was Hot Wheels' version of the General Lee car, which they didn't have authorization to make, so they just took this Roger Dodger car, didn't have the engine sticking up out of the hood, didn't have the big blower, and this was their version. So, because they didn't have the license to make an official General Lee car. So I'm thinking that this Dark Rider Series 2 could have perhaps been a similar situation where they didn't have the rights to make a Batmobile, so they just decided to do this. Or I could be completely wrong. But nevertheless, this is what we have, the Dark Rider Series 2, and we're getting into that territory again where it's a long car, and we've already seen from the Lincoln Continental, we've seen from the 59 Cadillac that longer cars don't tend to do very well on the track. Let's see if this is in Dark Rider Series 2. And I believe that I said the year on that was 1990. Taking the video here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think if I remember any longer cars, these bigger, longer cars, doing well. And so this has a combination. I was mentioning how I don't like the wheels tucked underneath the body. So the rear wheels are tucked underneath. The front wheels are flush. So I don't know if that will make a difference. I know that with the Lincoln Continental, the wheels are definitely underneath the body. Same thing with the Cadillac. Plus that Cadillac, as I pointed out yesterday, had a weird wobbling thing that it didn't seem stable. I don't know if that was a feature or an accident or a bug or something, but it didn't it just didn't seem stable, and so it's not a good thing on the track. So let me adjust this so I can get. Got to take the picture, and the pictures are definitely most important because that is how the students can pick their cars, and that's also what you will have at your disposal when you decide to visit AtTheTrack.live, select choose a car, and when you pick the car that you would like to see race. Again, you can put that number that's associated with the car into the chat. I'll go and find the car, and then from there, we will have the races, set those up. So if you think you can find a car that's faster than the Dark Rider Series 2, then go ahead, pick it, drop it into the chat, and we will go from there and see if you're right. Okay, so we have the Dark Rider Series 2. We have the Mercedes CLK LM. Is that what it was? CLK LM, yeah. And those are two cars that will be hitting the track in just a little while after we get some others in there. And this is also, this Dark Rider Series 2 is metal on metal. So it's definitely not, I mean, there's a little bit of plastic on the body, but there's a little bit of plastic like right here, just like door panel. But other than that, metal base, metal car, metal body. So we will see if that is a detriment or if it helps it speed down the track. I don't know. And it's interesting also because the weight, if I had a gravity track, which is what on YouTube most of the Hot Wheels races are gravity tracks, where the car starts from a higher point, the cars are released, and then gravity works its magic and the cars get pulled down the track. So in that case, a heavier car sometimes is better. But on our track, that's not necessarily the case. A heavier car, gravity will be working, but it will be pulling the car down. So over the length of our track, as gravity's pulling down on the car, especially a heavier car, it's going to slow down toward the end. And we saw that with the Cadillac yesterday, and the Metro Rail flew right by it. So heavier is not necessarily better on a flat drag racing Hot Wheels track. Gravity track, different story, different choices to make. So you can keep that in mind when you go and decide to pick your car. All right, time to dig in the bag, pull out car number 3. Got one here. Okay, I've got this one, which is the Turbulence. Turbulence? Oh, instead of turbulence, turbo. They always have a little car gimmick. The Turbulence. Virtual connection cars. I don't know what that means. But it's interesting because some, especially with these older cars, you get to see the promotions that they were doing at the time. So this one has 3D screensaver of this car with purchase. See back for details. So I'll look at the back for details. The future of Hot Wheels collecting is here. Be the first to collect all the virtual collection cars online. Just look for the secret code hidden behind the car on this package to download a 3D screensaver of the car in this package. Go to www.hotwheels.com/virtual collection. Requires Microsoft Windows 95 or higher. Complete requirements available online. Microsoft Windows and registered trademark, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is what they were doing in 1999. And I've had another car that I opened up that was part of some, it wasn't a virtual whatever, but it did have a code, and you could go to a website and put in the code, and I think you were entered into a contest, but the website was dead. So I'm pretty certain that this website is also going to be dead. I'm going to check, but first what I'm going to do is open up this car, which is another really good looking car, the Turbulence, and the year is 1999. 1999. So let's crack this open, take a closer look. Oh man, I messed up the little code on the back. Oops, and I dropped the car. I tore the packaging, and the code is on that little box right there. But I don't think, oh, it's FAST, F-A-S-T. Okay, so I'll be able to figure out what that is, but that is not what's most important right now. What's most important, this car looks, these are some really good looking cars. Don't know if they'll be fast, because this one seems particularly heavy, but take a look at it. That is a good looking car. Again, I can't tell, I don't know if it'll be fast, which is why we have to take it to the track, but just on, if we were only judging on appearance, I really like this one. Okay, let me lock in this focus and get a picture of the Turbulence and switch over to the video. Get this thing moving. All right, and get this video. I say 1999. I'll lock in the focus, which is always key. All right, so this is going to be car number 512. This is the Turbulence. It is a metal base and a metal body, and makes it kind of heavy, which I don't think is going to help it out. It's 1999, and now I will check and see if there is, if that website is still up and running. Get a 3D screensaver. Let's see, it's hotwheels.com/virtual connection. Oh, virtual collection. So that's virtual collection. And what's the screen that comes out? Oh, wipeout. This page doesn't exist. Go to hotwheels.com below. So this is another promotion that ended 24 years ago or thereabout. And so I won't need, it doesn't matter that I tore the packaging and messed up the code, because there's no place to redeem the code. So it doesn't matter. What does matter is we've got this car, the Turbulence. I think if it were the metal body on plastic, it would probably have a better shot on the track. But then again, considering the cars that it's going up against, the Mercedes and the Dark Rider, those are both metal on metal. So, or actually, was the Mercedes? No, the Mercedes was plastic base on with a metal body. So, right now, if I had to pick, my money would be on that Mercedes. But we never know until we actually race the cars. But this car looks good. And these roadster type cars that have no windshield and no roof have done well. They've won the last two series of races that we've had. And yeah, so turbulent, although this one's a lot bigger than some of the other ones that we've had before, because even if you look at the one that won yesterday, this one, the D-type, you can see how much, hang on, you can see how much smaller the D-type is. Well, see, that's just the kind of forced perspective, but it's not, I guess it's not that much smaller, but it is smaller. You can see right there with the tail area how much further out the turbulence sticks out. So it will be interesting to see how these cars perform once we get down, and as it kind of turns, you can even see now a little more clearly that the turbulence is longer, because even in the front, this front area is sticking out further than the D-type, and then the back area is also sticking out. But again, have no idea how it will perform until we actually get it on the track. So we have now 3 cars so far. We've got the Turbulence, which is metal on metal, larger wheels, which is good, I think. We have the Dark Rider Series 2, if that is your real name. And we have the Mercedes CLK LM. So there are 3 more cars that are going to be entered into the database. 3 more cars that we are going to take out to the track and race. But we've got to get that number up. We've got to get 6. So I'm going to reach into the bag, pull out another car. You can feel the bag getting lighter, but there are still a bunch of cars in here. What do I have now? All right. Oh boy. Okay, yet another Ford GT40. Get the logo off. This one, the packaging is all yellowed, but I have a number of GT40s, but they are more modern releases, more recent releases in the last few years. So this one may be a little different. It's probably only different in the construction. I'd have to compare them, but I definitely know I have 4 GT40s. As a matter of fact, like there's one right here. Well, it's not a GT40, but it's a Ford GT, and so you can see kind of, it's definitely more sleek, but the Ford GT40s that I have look similar. So let's crack this open, take a look. Any information on the back? Nope, just telling us to visit the Hot Wheels website, which don't have any need to do that. This Ford GT40 this is interesting because the windows look frosted, but there's no, okay, maybe. All right, let me get this on the turntable so you can take a look at it with me, and we can go over this car. Let's see, 1999 is the year on this one. So go ahead, and it's got a red, white, and blue color scheme. Typically, I don't like to have multiple versions of the same car, but in some cases there's not really much I can do about that. So, and with this one, I would keep it in mainly because it's an earlier release. It's so much, it's at least a good 20 years or so older than the re-released versions that I have now. And so the reason I would keep this in is because maybe, let's say this car performs differently, it performs better or worse than the more modern versions, then I would be able to kind of compare and look and say, okay, so the shape and the design are more or less similar. Is there something about either the wheels or the materials used, or why is there this variation in the performance of these cars? So Ford GT40, and I know, like I said, I have a few of these, and then I even have some that I haven't opened that I just really like the different color schemes. I think the one that's in the database that you can pick from, if that's the car you want to choose, has the Gulf livery, so it's that light blue with the orange stripes. It's a good looking and popular version. Now let's get the still photo here. Set this up. So if that's a matchup that you want to see, if you want to see the older GT40 versus the newer GT40, the older GT40, this one, versus the newer GT40, all you have to do is go find it, go to AtTheTrack.live, scroll through, and once you find the one you're looking for, I think this is, that's good. Put some light on it there. Lock in the focus. Shoot the picture. All right, got the Ford GT40. Maybe that's a better look at it. Take it there. Just a little bit. Because I want to be sure that the students can kind of see the angles and the shape of the car as clearly as possible. So we have the Ford GT40. As I mentioned, if you were to go to AtTheTrack.live and then go down to choose a car, you go to choose a car and it will take you to this page, and on this page you can scroll through, and there it is right there, the Ford GT40, which means I need to give this other one a different designation. So we'll put Ford GT40, we'll call it red 78, because it's got a 78 on the side. So if you wanted to see this Ford GT40 take on the red Ford GT40 from 1999, then all you would need to do is select this number, which is 23, and put that into the chat. I'd pull that, and then we'd have GT versus GT. And I think I have so many of these, because there are some other versions. There's still Ford GTs, but there's like a race edition and this and that. I might actually have just a Ford GT series of races to see which of these GTs is the fastest. So that is something that could happen. Got the Ford GT40, good looking car. And again, I know exactly why I picked it up, because these are just good looking cars, but I definitely didn't have the 90s edition of this car. So, all right, we now have 4 cars so far that we have entered into the spreadsheet. We have the Mercedes CLK LM. We have the Dark Rider Series 2. We have the Turbulence. And now we have the Ford GT40. Let me double check that year, 1999. This one has a plastic base and a metal body, so it might be able to give the that Mercedes a run for its money. My bet is still on that Mercedes though. But we have 4 cars. We're going to get at least 2 more in before we hit the track. So time to go back into the bag here. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's see. Look at this one. This is, take the logo down, Hot Wheels Racing, the Acura NSX. And I'm almost certain I have another Acura NSX, but it definitely doesn't look like this. And these cars just look really good. This time period. Although, see, I was a little too, I was a little premature in my admiration for the year, because this one says 2007, and on the packaging it says 2012. And then there's some, told you I picked this up at a Hot Wheels swap meet, so there's some writing on the back. Let's see. So with regard to the car, on the back, officially, it says, drivers, start your engines and zoom past the competition with these speedsters. They're quick, sleek, and ready to compete. Collect them all, and you'll always take the fast track to victory. Okay, that didn't help or do anything. There is a QR code on the back. Scan to add to your online collection. I don't know if that's active or not. I will try it later and see. There's also some notes on here that some people wrote. It says Target Hillside, Hillsdale. I don't know where that would be. It also says Saturday 12/28/12. I don't know. Somebody just wrote that on there. Anyway, it's totally irrelevant because I'm going to crack this package open right now. Oh, this is a nice looking car. Wow. I like this one a lot. Let's take a look at this Acura NSX. That is a great looking car. Let's get a little bit of extra light on it because it deserves it. Turn it just a little bit. There. And lock in that focus. Take the picture. Got it. And now let's get a video. Get a good look at this car all the way around. The Acura NSX. Again, lock in the focus. Let's take a look. Yeah. Good looking car. So this is going to be car number 514. There's just so much detail, and I love the paint color. All of the decals. You've got the silver interior. You've got the you can see through. I believe that's the engine compartment back there. See that? Acura. It's got the big wing coming off the top, which is metal, as opposed to the Mercedes, which had a plastic wing. Acura NSX. And the year, I believe I said 2007. I'll double check that. But yeah, this is a good looking car, and I think this is, of the cars we've picked, this one might be able to give the Mercedes some competition. But that's just me presuming the Mercedes is going to be quick and perform better than some of the other cars that we've looked at. Sometimes I don't like the yellow striping on the tires, but in this case I do like it because there's little yellow accents all over the car. And yeah, this is another very good looking car. I like that. So this is the Acura NSX, and I'm just going to double check the year on this. 2007. It's a plastic base, metal on the top, so that is similar to the Mercedes, and that means that we might have a I think those two cars, for some reason, I think those two cars are going to be the ones that make it down to the finals. However, that would just be our fifth car, and we definitely need a sixth car. So I am going to go in, and I am going to pull out one more car, and then we will head to the track. So you still have a few minutes left. If you want to select a car to race, all you have to do is go to AtTheTrack.live. You can select choose a car, and it will take you to our page here that has all the cars listed. Scroll through, and if you think you see a car that you think is faster than the Mercedes CLK LM, or faster than the Dark Rider Series 2, or faster than the Turbulence, or faster than the Ford GT40, or faster than this Acura NSX, all you have to do is select a car. So if you think this the 72 Ford Gran Torino Sport is going to be faster, all you have to do is select that car, take a look at it, say, okay, I like that, and take this number that's right in the front, 143, and drop that into the chat. I'll pull the car, and then we'll set up the race. We'll take it out there when it is time to hit the track, which we're getting closer to. We're getting ever closer to getting out to the track. We just need one more car to round out today's field. So I'm going to go back into the bag. I am going to pick one more car to add to the group. Definitely getting down to the end. I think there's only 2 or 3 more cars left in here. Pull it out. This is not, so this one I pulled out. This is a Toyota Supra. This is from the 80s edition. This is the 82 Supra. And so because this is a newer car, I am going to set this aside and see if I have any more of these late 90s, early 2000s cars. I'm reaching around. I think there's only 2 more in here. Let's take a look. This one, flash drive. I'm almost certain I have one of these because I'm looking at this. This looks extremely familiar. So it says best for track, which I think that's just marketing. New for 2017. So there's one more car left in here. Let's see what it grab this. Perfect. We'll go with this one. So the one that's left in the bag is this one, the Road Rocket. And it is, you can tell from this blue sort of generic packaging that this is an older car, because if you look at the newer cars, they have an actual rendering of what the car in the package looks like versus these cars. It just had this blue generic car there. But the Road Rocket, let's see what year. 1997 it says. What does it say on the bottom of the car? 1995. This is another car, metal on metal. but the Road Rocket. So is there any information on the back? No. All right, so let's crack this open, take a look. All right, the Road Rocket. This is interesting because there's a lot of plastic on this car. It's all plastic sitting on a metal base. So that's a little different. We've had cars that have today that had metal bodies sitting on the plastic base, but this is a little bit different. So let's take a look at the Road Rocket and see what we think. All right, so there it is, the Road Rocket. Let me lock the focus in here. You can see it's got metal. It's got metal in the front, metal on the base, which I believe is also comes up through the back, like you see the metal popping up like right there in the middle, and then also the wing in the back is metal, but the black part and the black and white parts of the body are all plastic. So that might actually be a benefit, because I think there was another car that we had that about 4 episodes ago that had a plastic body sitting on a metal base and was really fast. It got beaten out at the end in the final race, but up until that point it was doing very well. And so let's see, this is car number 515. This is the, what do they call it? The Road Rocket. And the year, I think on the car it said 1995. Okay, another good looking car right there. So let's go, let me stop this, spin the car around, get it ready for its picture. Zoom in a bit. Okay, and let me get it turned for the camera. That's about right. Get a little more light on that back area. And lock in the focus. And go ahead and take that picture. Good. Okay. So what this means is those are our 6. We've got our 6 cars. We have the Mercedes CLK LM, the Dark Rider Series 2, the Turbulence, the Ford GT40, the Acura NSX, and now the, what was it called? The Road Rocket. So we've got the Road Rocket rounding out our group. I was thinking that Mercedes was going to be the one to beat. Oh, this is interesting. So with this Road Rocket, I just noticed that let me go to get a bigger view. So right here in the back, it turns out that the metal comes up from the base, and it's got this metal, the wing is metal, but then I don't even know how to describe it. So the sides of the wing are metal, but the top part is plastic, and I don't believe that they're connected. So no, you can see that the metal comes up and it's kind of wraps around, and then there's the wing here. So I don't even know how to describe the sides of the wing. This bottom portion. It's definitely an interesting design, but I think that the metal on plastic, or the plastic on metal, might make this car significantly faster than some of the other ones. But I still think that Mercedes is going to make it interesting, make it close. So let's get ready to take these cars to the track. And of course, what I need to do is make sure that, all right, so we've got that all set up. Okay, so just a reminder in case you haven't watched our Hot Wheels races before, this is the view essentially that you're going to get of the Hot Wheels track. And it's broken up into 3 sections, beginning, middle, and end. And starting on the left side at the very top is where our launcher is, and that's where you will see the cars begin the race. They will shoot out of the launcher, and they will be heading towards the bottom of the screen. Once they get to the bottom of that screen on the far left, then you'll be able to pick them up in the middle section, and they'll be coming top down again. And then once they reach the bottom of the middle section, you can pick them up in the third and final section, and again, top down, and they'll be racing towards our finish line. The finish line has infrared beams, and the first car to break one of those beams is the winner, and the winner is indicated by a solid red light. So a solid red light indicates the winner, and a flashing red light indicates the losing car. So that is the view of the track. That is how our races go down. It is best 2 out of 3. And if a car crashes 2 times in a row, then it is disqualified. If after every race the cars switch lanes so that there are no unfair advantages that one car has versus the other. And I think that's just about all you need to know, other than let me just double check to make sure that I don't have any cars that I need to pull. No. So we're going to stick with these 6. The Mercedes, the Dark Rider, the Turbulence, the Ford GT40, Acura NSX, and the Road Rocket. So good looking field. I am going to head over to the track, and I will see you there in just a moment. Okay, so here we are at the track, and I am just going to double check to make sure our sound levels are where they should be. And let me do that, because we did have one race where we had an audio malfunction, and the entire set of races were conducted and there was no audio, and so you didn't get to hear my insightful, dazzling commentary during the races. So audio looks good, cars look good. I think we'll start off right off the bat going kind of big. We'll go with the Dark Rider versus the Turbulence. Those are the 2 biggest cars that we have, and in lining them up and just looking at them, I'm seeing that the Dark Rider is a narrow car, And as we've mentioned, narrow cars tend not to do as well because they bounce around the track a lot. And that in bouncing around the track, it creates friction and slows their forward momentum, and they just don't do well. But this could be the exception. So we've got the Dark Rider in lane 2, and we've got Turbulence in lane number 1, ready to go. So Dark Rider Series 2 in lane 2 and Turbulence in lane 1. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. And as predicted, the narrow, dark Rider Series, Dark Series Rider, Dark Rider Series car, because it was narrow, it was bouncing and kind of wobbling its way down the track. Turbulence, being a wider car, didn't have that issue and proceeded to beat it. Now, Turbulence is metal on metal, and because of that, it definitely was noticeably not fast. I'm not going to say it was slow, it was just noticeably not fast. And in being noticeably not fast, it ends up with a victory here, but I don't think it's going to be able to beat some of the other cars that are in the lineup. But hey, you never know, which is why we race the cars. So we're switching lanes, and we've got the Dark Rider Series 2 in lane 1. We've got Turbulence in lane 2. So again, Turbulence lane 2, Dark Rider in lane 1, and the solid red light indicates the winner, but I don't think it will be a race that's close enough that we'll even have to consider the finish line indicators. So here we go, race number 2. Three, two, one, race. Not close at all. And once again, one of the things that's proving true over and over as we have these races is that narrow cars are not doing well. And there's a definite reason why they don't do as well. And you can just see them wobbling their way down the track. And so definitely wider cars are better. And in looking at some of the cars we have left, they don't seem to be as narrow as the Dark Rider, but they also don't seem to be particularly, well, I don't know, we may have some wide cars. So let's go next with the Acura NSX and the Ford GT40. These cars are similar in both size and I don't want to say appearance, but they're relatively similar when you look at them compared to the cars that we have to choose from. So put the Ford in lane 2, and we'll put the Acura in lane number 1. Make sure these are lined up straight, not rubbing against the sides, which is also a key. Okay, we've got them lined up, looking good. So we've got the Ford GT40 in lane 2, the Acura NSX in lane 1. Solid red light indicates the winner. So let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. the Acura takes it, and that was one where we definitely needed the finish line indicator. That was a close race, and I'll be interested to see exactly how close it was on when I go back and review the video. But wow, that was something. Okay, so we have the Acura taking a 1-0 lead. Cars are going to switch lanes and see what the outcome is. Let's see, get these set up here. And this time we'll go Ford GT 40 is going to be in lane number 1. The Acura will be in lane number 2. Oh wait, I gotta get the starting block lined up. So let's get it in there. Sometimes they don't want to cooperate, but all right, we've got them in there. So we've got the Acura in lane 2, Ford GT 40 in lane 1. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Another very close race, but this time the Ford GT40 takes it. So, Ford GT40, Acura NSX. We've had 2 very close races, and it is now time to see which car is going to move on. I know the other 2 cars that are waiting, the Road Rocket and the Mercedes, are really going to have to have their work cut out for them if they are going to be on par with these 2 cars. Wow. Okay, let's see. We will go this time going back with the Acura is going to be in lane number 2. If I can get the starting blocks positioned correctly. Okay. I'm sorry, the Acura is going to be in lane number 1, and the Ford is going to be in lane number 2. All right, so we've got Acura NSX in lane 1, the Ford GT40 lane 2, and now it's time to see which car is going to move on in today's tournament. Three, two, one, race. And it is the Acura. The Acura takes it. That race wasn't quite as close. It was close, but it wasn't as close as the others. But the Acura takes it. So, lucky lane 1 for the Acura. And that is the car that will be moving on, the Acura NSX. All right. So, that Ford GT40, still pretty fast though. Just wasn't fast enough to take out the Acura. So, we are down to the next up, the Mercedes CLK LM and the Road Rocket. So, let's get those 2 cars lined up and see what happens. So let's see, we've got the Road Rocket in lane number 2. Trying to get it straight in here. And then we've got the Mercedes, which was initially the car I thought would do best. So we've got the Mercedes in lane 1, we've got the Road Rocket in lane 2, and it is time to, let me double check this Road Rocket, make sure it's lined up properly. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, so here we go. Road Rocket lane 2, Mercedes lane 1. Solid red light indicates the winner. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Wow. Okay. The Road Rocket took off like a rocket and won that race easily defeating the Mercedes, but we are going to switch lanes and see if there is any difference. Maybe something happened with the Mercedes, but I didn't see anything to indicate that the Mercedes is going to be able to close that large of a gap between the two cars. So let's get the lanes switched out here, and then take a look and see if there's going to be any significant difference, or if the Road Rocket is going to smash the Mercedes once again. So we have the Road Rocket in lane 1. We have the Mercedes in lane 2, and we're going to see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Race was a little closer than the first, but still not so close as to make the Road Rocket worry or sweat. So the Road Rocket takes it, and we'll move on with the final 3 cars, which is Turbulence, the Acura NSX, and we are going to pretty soon find out which of these cars is going to be moving on. So let's go Road Rocket versus Turbulence. I think that's the matchup that's going to happen here. So get the launcher set up, and Turbulence will be in lane number 2. And Road Rocket, which feels particularly light. Again, it's the one with the metal base and the plastic body, versus Turbulence, which is metal on metal, I believe. I'll double check after the race. But Turbulence is in lane 2, Road Rocket lane 1. Let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Oh. Turbulence takes it, and took it pretty handily, which is interesting because in the previous race, the Road Rocket looked really fast, but it's all relative to the cars that they're facing. So against the Mercedes, the Road Rocket looked pretty fast. In this race, Turbulence made the Road Rocket look like it had blown a tire or something. But we're going to switch lanes and see if that makes a difference. So we'll have the Road Rocket in lane 2, and Turbulence will be in lane number 1. let's see, we got Turbulence, lane 1. We got the Road Rocket, lane number 2. Okay, so we've got, once again, Turbulence, which took the first race very easily in lane 1, Road Rocket, lane 2. Let's see how it turns out. Three, two, one, race. Road Rocket surprises, and considering how badly it was beaten in the first race, Road Rocket comes back and takes the second race. So maybe it just got a bad start the first time, and now it's back. So it's all tied up. We have Turbulence and Road Rocket, both with a win. So we are going to switch lanes once again and have the third and final race between these two. And it's interesting that we've had so one race was clearly not close, and the other race was very close. Well, yeah, it was closer. So this race should tell us which of those two races was the anomaly. Was the close race or the blowout the one that's more typical of these two cars going head to head on the track? But we're about to find out. So we've got Turbulence in lane 2. We've got the Road Rocket in lane 1. And whichever car takes this will move on to face the Acura in the finals. So let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Oh. And the Road Rocket comes back after being almost embarrassed in that first race, comes back and takes the next two. It took this one from Turbulence in a very close race, very close, but the Road Rocket is moving on, and the Road Rocket is going to take on the Acura. The Acura seemed very fast, but it may all be relative. It may just have to do with the car that the Acura was facing, the Mercedes. So, or no, the Ford GT. This is going to be our final, which is going to be the Road Rocket versus the Acura. So let's get those set up here. So Road Rocket will be in lane 1. And the Acura will be in lane number 2. Okay. And the Acura doesn't want to stay put. So let's get this another try. Yeah. Sometimes the cars, you've got to get them pressed right up against the starting block. Otherwise, the starting block punches the cars out instead of pushing them out. And when it punches the cars out, they tend to do some strange things. Fly up in the air, crash, whatever. All right, we've got them lined up. Acura NSX is in lane 2. The Road Rocket in lane 1. So let's see what happens. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, race. Ooh. See, I spoke it into existence. So I mentioned it, and then the Road Rocket, what does it do? It comes out of the gate, it crashes into the barrier. And so that race gets thrown out. We're going to reset the cars, line them up again, and have this race, because that was not exactly the what we were looking for out of the Road Rocket. Totally unexpected. And so let me go down here. The NSX had no problem finishing up the race, but because of the crash, it's like it never happened. That was just a practice run. And we're going to come back, line these cars up again, and hope that that was just some freak accident. So let me get the Acura lined up again here in lane 2. Okay. That seems okay. All right. So once again, try this again. Acura NSX lane 2, Road Rocket in lane 1. Let's see what happens. 3, 2, 1, race. Road Rocket takes it. That was an extremely close race, and the Road Rocket just managed to beat out the Acura. So it stayed on the track. Clearly that first crash was just some freak occurrence, and it was the Road Rocket took the race. So we are going to switch lanes and see if the Acura can come back and take us to a third and final race. So let's see here. We are going to switch it around. We'll have the Acura in lane number 1. Presuming I can get it to stay put. Okay. Acura lane 1. And, oh, Road Rocket. I just noticed something, a feature about this car. Very interesting. Okay. I'll point that out when we go back into the garage. Let's see here. All right, so Road Rocket. Ready to go. All right, so here we go. Road Rocket in lane 2, Acura NSX in lane 1. If the Road Rocket takes it, that's our winner for today. If the Acura takes it, we're going to a third and final race. So let's see what happens. Three, two, one, race. Road Rocket takes it. Road Rocket takes it. Road Rocket takes it. So the Road Rocket ends up being very, very dominant. And that was not as close. The first race was close. But other than that, I mean, the Road Rocket, well, was the first race close? One of those races was close, but either way, the Road Rocket took it. And let me gather up these cars, head back into the garage, and I'm going to show you the little feature that I just discovered on the Road Rocket. So give me a minute to gather these things up, and I'll see you back in the garage. Okay, so today's winner is the Road Rocket, and the Road Rocket is an interesting car because, as we mentioned, it's got um, the plastic body, predominantly plastic body, over the metal base, and I've noticed that that's been a good combination in a few of the races that I've kind of noticed. There was one car, I can't think of the name of it. It was a black car that almost seemed to be cheating because it had no interior. It was hollow, and it was just a plastic body sitting on top of a metal base with no interior. And so it was light. It had that metal base, and then it had that light plastic body, and it was pretty quick down the track. It eventually was beaten out, but it did pretty well. But anyway, with the Road Rocket, what I noticed when I went to go pick it up is that this canopy, it lifts up. So that it does this. I don't know if let me see if it stays up. I don't want to break it. But so the canopy, so it lifts off, and then you can kind of see, you can take a look at the inside of the car. This is a nice design. And so you can see the driver's cockpit, the engine compartment sitting behind there. And again, that's all, even though it's silver, the engine and this part, even though it's silver, this is plastic. But if you look behind here, the darker gray under there is metal. And you can, let me bring up a closer view. And so you can see that underneath here for the base, so this plastic part, the bright silver, is sitting on top of this darker silver metal base. And so it's still, and then this plastic top is, again, it's still plastic, but then you can see, you can take a look at the metal base of the car, and so all of this sort of darker silver metal is metal, and then the really bright shiny silver is plastic. And so you can kind of see the difference in the color between this plastic and there. So that actually, it works to the advantage of that car. Let me see. I have my scale here, so I'm curious about the weight of this car. Let me see. This car weighs 35.1 grams. So our winning car weighs 35.1 grams. And let's see. The turbulence seems heavy. It's got to be in the 40s. Turbulence weighs 47.4 grams. So that's a significant jump up in weight. The Acura is 34.7. So it's a little more closely aligned with the Road Rocket, which probably accounts for why it did as well as it did. Might as well check and see the what was this thing called? The Dark Rider Series 2. That weighs 49.6 grams. So that was by far the heaviest car that was in the mix today. The Ford GT, which has a plastic base, probably in the 30s, probably 35, 37.7. So plastic base, metal body, but this Dark Rider Series 2 is all metal, and when I pick it up, I can feel the weight of it. and I can tell that it's heavy. The turbulence is also heavy, again, metal on metal, and these may do better in downhill drag races, but on our track, you definitely want a combination. The best combination is a wide car, and if you happen to find one that has a metal base and a plastic body, that seems to be a combination that's working out. I've had some other winners, but it's until the cars go head to head, it's really hard to say definitively, which is why I explained to the kids that just one or two races isn't enough for us to make a definite conclusion, which is why the kids keep information on their cars and how it performed, so that over time, as people pick those cars, we'll start to see trends. And maybe it's cars from, the late 90s end up being faster. Well, why is that? Then once we start to see those trends, then we can look a little closer and see why, what all the winning cars have in common. Maybe it has to do with the shape. Maybe it has to do with the axles. Maybe it has to do with the wheels. There's a whole number, maybe the materials it's made from. There's a whole range of things that can be reasons why one car performs better than the others. But the only way in the end, is to take the cars to the track to conduct the experiment. And fortunately, the experiment part is the fun part of racing the cars. So now we have gone through the whole series of 90s era Hot Wheels cars that I purchased from the collector's swap meet. And I think at the next At the Track Live, we'll be getting into some more modern cars that I've purchased in the last couple of years. I'll be going through the crates, pulling those out. There'll be fantasy castings. There will be actual Hot Wheels modeled after real cars. There'll be race cars, a whole range. Try to get some trucks in there. The problem is that we've had with the trucks is that they've been a little too wide, and they've been too wide, and they won't fit into the launcher. So I have to kind of keep an eye out for that. But there are going to be more races. You can go to our Instagram page at AA Aerodynamics. You can go to the YouTube channel to watch some of the previous episodes of At the Track Live. Once you get there, just click on the Live tab and it will come up. And you can see how some of the cars performed. But most importantly, you can go to AtTheTrack.live, go down to choose a car, go to the page, find a car that you like, that you want to see race, and come back, put it into the chat, put the number into the chat. I'll pull the car and we'll take it to the track and race it. Maybe you could have picked a car that was faster than the Road Rocket. It's a possibility. I'm sure there's got to be a car that's faster than that one. This can't be the fastest car in the fleet. And also, if you go to AtTheTrack.live and scroll down, there's a calendar. And on the calendar, you can actually see when we're going to be broadcasting and streaming next. What else? I think the Instagram is the best way. There's some things we're adding on TikTok, slowly but surely, some race clips. But Instagram is the place to check the stories, check the posts, and get an idea or know exactly when we'll be back up here streaming. So, we had some good races today. Found a good. Well, I want to say that the road Rocket. Before I go declaring it as one of the fastest cars in the fleet, it definitely won today. It beat out these other cars, but it didn't seem super fast. But you never know. Hey, you don't have to be faster than everybody. You just have to be faster than the cars you're racing against. And today, the Road Rocket was fastest, and that is today's All About Aerodynamics at the Track Live champion. I am Coach James, and until next time, I'll see you at the track.